morning, friends. Welcome back to Read Aloud. Today is Friday, June 12th, and we are going to get started with a new text today. So, just like always, we're going to start with our pencil or pen and either a blank piece of paper, or you can print out the papers that are in the distance learning folder. And I will put the links for the distance learning folder and the folder with the materials for today in the description underneath this video. So all you have to do is click on it. Now our text today is called Viola Desmond Won't Be Budged. And this story is like the story of Sonny Rollins that we read. It looks like a fiction text, but it's actually a nonfiction text because Viola Desmond actually was real in real life. And this is part of her story. So we are going to get started and we're going to learn about Viola Desmond. Viola Desmond Won't Be Budged by Jody Nyasha Warner, and the pictures are by Richard Rudnicki. Viola Desmond was one brave woman. Now come on here, listen in close, and I'll tell you why. So remember, we know that Viola Desmond was one brave woman, and that's important to notice because we're going to keep coming back to that. It was a day with a zing in the air when Viola set out on her way. She waved to Gladys and Susu, who worked for her at V's Studio Beauty Parlor. Then she stepped into her car and drove away. Viola drove those winter wet roads with care. She had a meeting to attend 3 towns away. But guess what? She never made it there. First she heard a rattle, then she heard a clunk, and her car began to shake. Quick, Viola drove into New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, to a garage. The mechanic said it would take some long hours to fix up the car, so Viola made plans to pass the time. Now we're going to stop here. I just want to clarify that New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, that is in Canada, which is a country north or right above the United States. All right, so our first question on our paper is, who is the main character and what do we know about her so far? So I'm going to flip through the pages that we just read, and you can jot down who the main character is and the important things that we have learned about her so far. Go ahead. All right, so we know that the main character in every story is the person who this story is about, the person or character. And we know that the main character in this text is Viola. We see first of all, her name is in the title. Viola Desmond Won't Be Budged. Um, and on every single page, we see and learn something about Viola Desmond. So here we learn that she is one brave woman. She works at her own beauty parlor, and she was heading towards a meeting a few towns away, and her car was having some trouble, so she had to go to the shop. So those are all of the things that we've learned about Viola Desmond so far. So Viola Desmond is the main character. and we know that she is brave. She owns her own beauty parlor, and while she was on her way to a meeting a few towns away, her car broke down, and now she has to wait for it to get fixed. Let's keep reading. Again. She walked up the street and down until she came upon the beautiful Roseland Theater. I'll watch a movie, Viola thought, and she stepped up to the window to buy a ticket for the show. Her ticket in hand, Viola found the perfect seat, right down close where she could see real good. But then she felt a tap on her shoulder. She looked up into the face of the usher. You have a cheap upstairs ticket, she said. You have to go up to the balcony. Well, said Viola, that cashier must have made a mistake. I'll just go on and buy me a main floor ticket then. Keep having to move my face. Here we go. All right. The usher shook her head. No, you people have to sit in the upstairs section. Right then, Viola understood crystal clear what she was saying. It was 1946. Back then, the Roseland Theater, like a lot of other places in Canada, was segregated. That meant black people were not allowed to sit, stand, or even be in the same section as white people. Viola felt sad. Viola felt scared. But most of all, Viola felt mad. Look, she said, I'm willing to pay the right price, and this is the seat I want, so I'm not moving. Well, said the usher, and went to tell the manager. Well, said the manager, and went to phone the police. And before you knew it, all three of them came up to Viola to insist that she move to the balcony. But I told you Viola was brave, didn't I? She wouldn't budge 1 inch because she knew this seating rule wasn't fair to black folks. It was just plain wrong. So the manager and the policeman dragged her out of the theater in a real rough way. They took Viola to jail. Can you believe it? She sat on a hard bench all night long and tried to keep her spirits strong. Oh my goodness. All right. The next morning, Viola was taken before a judge and charged with not paying the proper ticket price. She tried to explain that she was happy to pay more for a downstairs ticket, but they didn't listen to her. They didn't listen to her none. Viola was charged a fine of $20, which was a lot of money in those days. Then she was free to go. So look at her face right here. She does not think that that was a fair ruling at all. That means that she does not agree with the judge's decision. Viola was glad to get back home to her beauty parlor. When people came by to visit, she told them what happened to her in New Glasgow. The story made them angry too. So Viola and black community groups in Nova Scotia decided to appeal her charge. That means that they wanted the judge to change their mind. A year later, in 1947, they faced the Nova Scotia Supreme Court, but the judges there sure didn't want to talk about racial segregation. They said Viola's case had been fair, and they canceled her appeal right there. So this judge did, or the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia, did not want to talk about racial segregation, and they didn't even want to hear Viola's court case. So they just threw it out and said that what the other judge said was fair when it really wasn't. Still, Viola's bravery made a big difference. She inspired all kinds of people to fight against segregation, and by the late 1950s it was made against the law. So come on and join me in saying thank you to Viola Desmond, a real hero who sat down for her rights. Usually people stand up for their rights, but she was sitting and she refused to budge, so she sat down for her rights. All right, my friends. So that was the whole story. We read an entire story in one video. and we are going to answer the rest of the questions. So the next question is, let me move my face. Why does Viola decide to go to the movies? So that happened towards the beginning of the story, so I'm going to go back and we're going to see why does Viola decide to go to the movies. Let's look at our options first. A, she wants to see a movie with a friend. B, her car broke down and it will take a while to fix it. Or C, it is hot outside and she wants to cool off. So let's see. All right, so I'll flip through the pages and then you see if you can find the correct answer. All right, so those were the pages that had the text evidence to show us what the correct answer is for this multiple choice question. So, why does Viola decide to go to the movies? She wants to see a movie with a friend, her car broke down and it will take a while to fix it, or it is hot outside and she wants to cool off. So, let's look here. Over here it says, quick, Viola drove into New Glasgow, Nova Scotia to a garage. The mechanic said it would take some long hours to fix up the car, so Viola made plans to pass the time. All right, so we know that from this text right here that it's going to take some hours, some long hours for Viola's car to be fixed. Then on the next page, it says she walked up the street and down until she came upon the beautiful Roseland Theater. I'll watch a movie, Viola thought, and she stepped up to the window to buy a ticket for the show. So that's showing us that she decided to spend her hours that she was waiting for her car watching a movie. So let's see what choice best fits that. A, she wants to see a movie with a friend. That's not it. B, her car broke down and it will take a while to fix it. That sounds about right because we know that she went to a garage to get her car fixed and the mechanic told her that it was going to take a while. So she decided to make plans going to a movie theater. And then choice C, it is hot outside and she wants to cool off. We don't know. Actually, we do know the weather. On this page, it says Viola drove those winter wet roads with care. Now, if it's winter, is it going to be hot outside? No. So we can cross this out too. So the correct answer is B. Her car broke down and it will take a while to fix it. All right, the next question. Was the judge's decision fair? Why or why not? So let's go back and see what the judge's decision actually was. All right. So we know that Viola was very roughly removed from the theater. That means that all of these people had their hands on her and they like pulled her out of the theater, which is never okay. And she actually had to spend the night in jail. So when she went to court to see what the judge was going to have her do, it says the next morning, Viola was taken before a judge and charged with not paying the proper ticket price. She tried to explain that she was happy to pay more for a downstairs ticket, but they didn't listen to her none. Viola was charged a fine of $20, which was a whole lot of money in those days. Then she was free to go. So even though she said that she was willing to pay for the more expensive ticket, um, they said that they didn't listen to her. So they didn't actually say anything. They just didn't listen to her. And instead, they gave her a fine, which means it's like you have to pay money as a punishment. So she lost out on $20, which was a lot of money back then. So, do you think that this judge's decision was fair? Why or why not? I'm going to go back a few pages so we can see the incident and you can write down whether you think it is fair or not. Go ahead. All right, so was the judge's decision fair? Was it fair that he decided to punish Viola for sitting where she wanted to sit? Um, no, it was not fair. Because even though he's saying that the reason that she is in trouble is because she was not paying the right price for a ticket. The real reason why this all happened was because the movie theater did not want black people sitting next to white people. And that is never fair. That is called segregation, and it's absolutely not fair. Um, so the answer is no, the judge's decision was not fair um, because they made her move or they asked her to move because of her skin color. So it is not fair. All right, the next question. Let's go here. All right. How did let's move over. Let's go. Let's go over here. How did Viola inspire change? A. She got the judges to change their mind. B. She inspired others to fight against segregation. Or C, she shared her story with others. So I'm going to flip through the pages and we can see which choice or choices, because there can always be more than one in these multiple choice questions, um, which choice or choices are correct. How did Viola inspire change? Let's go back. Oops, went too far. All right, so let's look at these choices again. We're going to move this up here. We're going to go down here. Here we go. How did Viola inspire change? Choice A, she got the judges to change their mind. All right, let's go back to the page where judges are there. So we got this page, and this is the initial ruling. So this was the initial decision of the judge. The next morning, Viola was taken before a judge and charged with not paying the proper ticket price. She tried to explain that she was happy to pay more for a downstairs ticket, but they didn't listen to her none. Viola was charged a fine of $20, which was a whole lot of money in those days. Then she was free to go. So she did not change the judge's mind here. Let's see if she changes this judge's mind. So Viola and black community groups in Nova Scotia decided to appeal her charge. A year later, in 1947, they faced the Nova Scotia Supreme Court, but the judges there sure didn't want to talk about racial segregation. They said Viola's case had been fair, and they canceled her appeal right there. So this judge, so Viola didn't change the mind of this judge either. He thought that the punishment was fair when it really wasn't. So when we look at our choices, she got the judges to change her mind. She actually didn't. Neither of the judges changed their mind when she went back to court. So that is not one of the responses. Let's go to B. She inspired others to fight against segregation. This is the page that has that text evidence. So let's look here and see whether that is the one of the correct answers. Go ahead. All right, so let's see what it says here. Still, Viola's bravery made a big difference. She inspired all kinds of people to fight against segregation, and by the late 1950s, it was made against the law. So there's our text evidence. She inspired all kinds of people to fight against segregation. So let's look over here at our choices again. She inspired others to fight against segregation. We read that in the text, so we know that B is one of the correct answers. So let's look at letter C. She shared her story with others. We're going to go up here. This is where you'll find the text evidence. Take a look for yourself and we'll go over it together. All right, so the text over here says Viola was glad to get back home to her beauty parlor. When people came to visit, she told them what happened to her in New Glasgow. The story made them angry too. So that story means her story, Viola's story. So she was telling people all about what had happened to her, her story of what happened in New Glasgow. So let's see, is that one of the options? She shared her story with others. Yep, that is definitely one of the options. And all of these people were angry too, so they decided to fight against segregation as well. So the correct answers for this question are B and C. All right, now we're going to take a look at the exit ticket. So the exit ticket today says, at the beginning of the story, the author tells us that Viola Desmond is brave. What happens in her story that shows us she is brave? How do her actions show that she is brave? Be sure to use text evidence and write in complete sentences. Your answer should be at least 4 sentences. So, at the beginning of the story, on the very first page, the very first sentence, it says, Viola Desmond was one brave woman. And then it says, now come on here, listen in close, and I'll tell you why. So this entire story is all about how Viola Desmond was brave. And she was brave in quite a few different ways. Um, so your job is to write about each and every one of those ways using the text evidence and write about what Viola does and how that shows that she's brave. So the first incident is that she refused to give up her seat because she knew that it wasn't fair for them to ask her to give up her seat, um, because they didn't want her sitting with white people. So she didn't move, even when this woman who works at the movie theater asked her, even when this manager asked her, they didn't even ask her, they told her that she had to move, and even when this police officer told her, she didn't move when all three of those people were trying to get her to move. So that shows bravery for sure. Um, she didn't let them scare her. And there are a few other instances where she's brave too, and you need to write about each and every one of those instances in the story. How does Viola show, or how does the story show how Viola was brave? Um, then you need to say how her actions show that she is brave, and you need to use the text evidence and complete sentences. There are still a few friends who are not writing in complete sentences. That means that you will not get credit for your work. So once you finish that, you're going to submit your assignment, and I look forward to reading them. All right, my friends, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and an awesome weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, friends.